Good morning. Someone said, did you ever consider Steel and Days getting banned was the reason for the NA explosion in the first place? It opened a lot of doors for other players that were talented, but never given the proper opportunity. You have to look at this logically, okay? At some point, you have a point, or anybody who thinks this way about how the iBuyPower bans affected the resurgence of Counter-Strike in North America has a point, but it's not the way that was just addressed. Logically, okay, look at Season 18, ESEA Season 18. Season 18 had iBuyPower, it had Area 51, and it had SKDC. All three were relegated, meaning they moved down a division. Or were just completely disbanded. And Season 19 showed an expansion. Now, the Season 19 expansion, I don't think had anything to do with iBuyPower bans. I don't think that ESEA was like, well, iBuyPower just got banned. What should we do? Well, let's expand the Pro Division. That'll show them. I think they were going to expand the divisions anyway, and I think it had a lot more to do with ESEA's competition with CEVO to expand the professional division and bring up more teams, so there's a little bit more, there's more games that are going to be going on, there's more opportunities, there's more streams, it just makes more sense. And then also, Keyed Stars moving to the United States didn't have anything to do with the iBuyPower bans, but that certainly helped. That made the North American scene more competitive, okay? Now you look at Invite League Season 18, for people who don't know, that had 9 teams in it. Season 19, last season, had 12 teams. So basically they relegated 3 teams, right? iBuyPower/GX, Area 51 what's Aviato now, and SKDC. You can find these teams in the Premier League, except for iBuyPower GX. You can find that team nowhere. And they promoted 6 teams. Keyed Stars, Tempo Storm, 3's Up, Method, Ace Gaming, and Mouse Pass. Basically, if iBuyPower, you have to ask yourself, what if iBuyPower was never banned, right? If iBuyPower was never banned, then what would probably happen is one of the bottom teams in Season 18, because that team, that GX team with Hiko and Skadoodle was just destroying North American teams, okay? That team would probably go on to do really well, and it wouldn't have gotten relegated. A team that might have gotten relegated might be a young team like Liquid, might be a team like Elevate, you don't know. But the players on those teams, guys like Nitro, Elige, Roka, Rush, players who are talented, those players would still be known and probably get recycled and go on to different teams. So the only thing that wouldn't happen is a team like Ace Gaming might not get promoted to Season 19. And if you think, Ace Gaming or Mouse Pass being promoted to Season 19 is what resulted in North America doing better, then you're out of your mind. So how the bans did result in like an explosion or a resurgence, the revival era of North American Counter-Strike, well, I think a lot of the minds in iBuyPower were able to go and kind of spread out and spread their seed, if you will. And, Days did some analysis started doing some analysis through his company, through Netcode Guides. He did analysis of Cloud9. Cloud9 it looked terrible in some games until Days made a video about how they didn't communicate mid-round and didn't, make adjustments mid-round for who has what and who's watching what. And that completely reformed what Cloud9 would do mid-round. And it also, Sean Garris took that and he added it to late round, where they would have this policy of basically people declaring who's going to be making the first interaction, post-plant. That's huge. That's huge. That changed. Cloud9 completely changed how they played post-plant situations, okay? Then you look at a team like CLG and the influence somebody like Steel had. You look at a team like Enemy and the influence that a guy like AZK had. I don't know if Swag has had any influence on Cloud9. I mean, kid's just a streamer. He's just a skirmy streamer. But if you look at iBuyPower and you say, well, what would happen if iBuyPower was never banned? I mean, you can't say, well, iBuyPower being banned is why NA, have you ever considered that that's what's resurged North American CS? Because ask yourself, what would have happened if, you have Hiko, Swag, Skadoodle, Dazed, AZK all on the same team. And what was happening was that team was just look at go type in on ESEA GX ESEA. They were like 16-5ing people. They were destroying kids, if you will. So in essence, what you have to ask is what kind of effect did it actually have on North American CS? Well, the bans, a lot of the pressure, a lot of the kickback that came back from the bans was the players saying, and a lot of players actually kind of voiced their concerns about, we don't get a fucking salary. We put in all these hours into this game because we love this sport, and we're like almost just not compensated for it. And that doesn't justify what anybody did, but that was still a recurring argument that would come out again and again. And then you started having reports on European teams and their salaries and how much they were getting paid. And it really allowed, once salaries started coming into the equation, for members in North America to start dictating more time and more resources to this game. People started coming back to the game. They started seeing that there was money in this game again. You know, Valve started saying there was money in this game again. You have sponsors that started paying their players more. Those players, like Adren, for instance, started taking off from work full time. You had teams that would basically just work, like for instance, Cloud9. I think Sean Garris actually graduated from college, and he was able to take things a little bit more, be a little bit more dedicated about things as well. So you have a lot of factors that influenced why the NA revival happened, if we could call it that. I mean, it hasn't even been a major yet. But to say, you know, these guys got banned and everybody got better and it opened a lot of doors. Whose doors did it open? Whose doors did it open for when iBuyPower got banned? The only players that we're seeing actually do anything in the NA revival era, we already knew about. Like who? Elige? You think Elige got an opportunity because iBuyPower got banned? No, absolutely not. We already knew about Elige. We already knew about everybody who was who's contributing into the NA scene. Everybody on CLG, we already knew about them for the most part. They probably got opportunities to go to majors, that I will say, and that made their team more experienced. But CLG going to the ESEA, ESL Pro League finals, that's not necessarily a success yet. Until CLG contributes to contending for a major, going to the finals of a major, or getting into the playoffs of a major, or even one of those international events where, I mean, they were in the semis. But CLG, if you were to ask yourself who would get further in a tournament, CLG with Finesse and Cutler and Tarek and JDM and Hazed, or Dazed, Skadoodle, Hiko, Swag, I mean, AZK, I think the answer is pretty clear. Okay? Now, if you look at it in other terms about the ban and how the ban, sort of augmented or assuaged the NA explosion, I would say augmented. Because, it changed it. I wouldn't say it necessarily helped it in direct terms, giving people opportunities. I would say it helped it because it made teams value players more, and also because it took a player like Skadoodle and it put him on Cloud9, and all Cloud9 really needed was a good opper. Like, a lot of if you look at Cloud9 as being the only success story from North America, which I don't think is true, by the way. I think Liquid has had successes against European teams. Remember, they beat Fnatic on Cash. I think CLG has had successes against European teams, and I think Tempo Storm has had a success against a European team, and we'll see more of that in the future. But if you look at just strictly Cloud9, right, and you say what was the problem of the Cloud9 of the past, Hiko leaving Cloud9 probably had more to do with Cloud9's success. That helped Cloud9 because it let Cloud9 hit rock fucking bottom. Now, if you look at the Cloud9 lineup, it was a very loyal lineup. You had Sean Gares, Semphis, and Hiko. After Semphis and Hiko left the Quantic days, that complexity lineup of Sean Gares, Semphis, Hiko, nothing, and then whoever their fifth was, whether it was Anger or Swag or whoever, that lineup was around for a long time. They went to semifinals. They went to quarterfinals. They were pretty much America's most successful team. But at a certain point, it got stagnant. Sean Gares didn't want to op. Sean Gares said, I would rather leave the team than op. Like, I am not opping anymore. Semphis, he was basically doing whatever anybody didn't want to do. Nothing wasn't showing up to practice. Imagine that. Imagine if you were on an open team or a premier team or a main team, and there was a guy who just didn't come to practice, didn't show up, didn't practice with everybody else, didn't show up to scrims sometimes, would come in game time, and your IGL would call something and be like, well, let's do this instead. No, I'm gonna go here and do that. Okay, you guys do that, and I'll go do this. And it's like, dude, we already fucking said what we're gonna do. Just shut the fuck up and do it. Buy into the system like everybody else. You're not fucking that special. What the fuck is wrong with you? And the guy's just fucking high off of his mind, so he doesn't give a shit. This is like the fucking situation that was going on. And then if you talk about an identity crisis, they didn't have anybody who wanted to entry frag. They didn't have anybody who maybe somebody wanted to entry frag and then they didn't. So now Semphis has to entry frag, and they had somebody who would want to support and hang back, but then they didn't. So Semphis wanted support, and they had somebody who lurked, but then they also nothing also wanted to lurk. So now you had both Hiko and nothing lurking. So the nexus of all of their identity problems basically fell under they didn't have a full-time opper, and they didn't have a full-time dedicated entry fragger. Okay, so Hiko left, and he said, you know what? This team has way too many problems. It's not concerned with winning. It's not concerned with fixing those problems, because I gave you guys an ultimatum. So I'm going to do you a solid. I'm going to leave. You guys can get another player, because I think you guys just need to change things up. So he leaves. He goes to iBuyPower. Now, if you look at Cloud9 at this point, they still don't know what to do. But what they decided is, let's get a full-time operator. That'll help things. So they get Shazam to fill in for Hiko. Now, that was probably the lowest point in all of North American CS. You're talking about going to international land, not winning a single map. Not even a single map. That's never happened before. Never has that complexity lineup of Sean Gares, Semphis, Hiko, nothing. Never have those players ever gone to a LAN and not won a single map before. That was embarrassing what happened at ESEA LAN. Just embarrassing. Katowice, that was an international major embarrassment. To see what happened at or DreamHack, sorry. To see what happened there, it was just like, wow. Okay, they're a new team though. Shazam's first LAN, whatever. Let's give them another chance, and then they did, and that's what happened. So, if you look at, and then there was the Orbit LAN, they did pretty well at actually. But if you look at Cloud9, they basically hit rock bottom, and that's when they were like, okay, we need to make a change. They cut Semphis. He was kind of a casualty based on, I think, just personality, honestly. And by personality, I don't mean I like Semphis quite a bit. I think he's very intelligent. I would never say that he's toxic or a jerk or anything. I just think that he was too alpha for Sean Gares, so to speak. He honestly, he would recommend something, and Sean Gares would be like, okay, I guess we're doing that. And that all changed, So when you have them hit rock bottom like that, you take out Shazam, you take out Semphis, you put in Freakazoid. So now they have that dedicated entry fragger. And then you bring in Skadoodle. Now they have that opera that they always needed on Cloud9. And then you start to see a team that has such dedicated roles outside of nothing, so to speak, that nothing can pretty much do almost any carry role he wants within the system of Sean Gares. So Freakazoid being there as a dedicated entry fragger allows Nothing to kind of do whatever he wants. And then Shroud kind of being this very hybrid player who he can be a trade fragger, he can be a lurker, he can be a support player, he can do whatever Sean Garris wants him to do and do it well, no problem. That also allows for Nothing to, it kind of alleviates the Nothing issue. And then, I've seen Nothing pick up the op, I don't know why, but whatever. I'm not going to get into that. The point is, Skadoodle joining Cloud9 helped Cloud9 tremendously, obviously. Like, it's the best player in the world. I mean, not in the world, in America, in North America. Even, like, Swag and him were neck and neck, even when they were unbanned. So, when you have these players, like, playing with each other, you're going to find success. But there's so many, there's such a multitude of reasons for the success. Like, sponsors taking the game more seriously, more money coming into the game, people getting paid more. It's very myopic to just say that the banned players, results in people getting more opportunity. Who got more opportunities? Name me one player who got more opportunities from iBuyPower being banned and actually went to an international LAN and did something. Nylum? Maybe. I don't know. They probably would have gone to the LAN anyway, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't have made LAN. Maybe they wouldn't have made ESEA LAN 18, actually. But have they gone to like a major and actually done something? No. They beat a bunch of North American teams for the most part. So, if you look at it, what is the real cause of the NA revival? I mean, the bans have something to do with it, but honestly, you could say that team sponsors would have helped teams anyway. You could say that the entire scene would have been revived in ways anyway, if that wasn't the case. But yeah, in some aspects, it had to hit rock bottom like it did, earlier this year between DreamHack Winter and ESEA LAN Season 18 for us to see the results that we've seen. I think the best thing, though, is if these guys were to be unbanned. Because if you look at the iBuyPower 4 and you look at where they are now and they realize what happened, how bad it happened, and what that effect had, okay? They see the consequences and they live with it every day. They're staring at it in the face right now. So if you unban them now, I think the message has been delivered. I think players would understand that if anybody were to do it now, it would be a lot hard. The consequences would be a lot harder knowing what has happened. And this is just a first time thing. You have to remember there weren't necessarily any rules about this. It just kind of blew up. So if these players were unbanned, AZK, Swag, Daze, Steel, they would be able to contribute in a big way to North American CS. And I think if they were never banned, actually that GX team probably would have actually gone to DreamHack Winter and at least gone to the semifinals. Like, that was such a fucking talented team. You have no fucking idea.